It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 435. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Hi.
Kodra.
Hello.
Tam.
Hello.
And Thalen.
I feel like I should say something interesting.
I know, that was like the most no-nonsense introduction ever. Also, I feel like it won't matter tomorrow when this actually goes live, but I feel like we should do an on-air happy birthday to Saul, who is the literal mother of Ammo, but is kind of the dorm mom to us all.
Happy birthday, Saul.
Happy birthday, Saul.
Happy birthday, Saul.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you for keeping the Final Fantasy Guild
Exactly.
running.
Thank you for being the adult in our lives when we're not.
She's gonna beg to differ on that one, but okay.
So this first topic, so this kind of comes to us courtesy of Loading Ready Run's Checkpoint, or at least that's what stirred it in my head enough to record a video about it and then also do a blog post about it. But
I was aware of this one before it became on Checkpoint, but
I was too. But not all the details that were talked about on Checkpoint.
Yeah, the detail on Checkpoint is especially frustrating.
So, in 2019, when Overwatch 2 was announced, it was ostensibly presented as, we gotta do another game because we're gonna make this one a PvE game. And here's all the PvE features that we're gonna do. And then last year, when they launched Overwatch 2, there was no PvE, but they said, don't worry, it's coming.
I feel like I remember saying something sarcastic.
Yeah.
At about that time.
So, I didn't buy into this. I did play one of the beta weekends because I was thrown in there, and I said this at the time, but literally if my life depended on it and you were holding a gun to my head, I could not tell you if I was playing Overwatch 1 or Overwatch 2. It was effectively the same game.
I mean, yeah.
That's because during the beta weekend, you weren't interfacing with that game with a credit card.
So, what is it? It's been a little over a week ago, during a live stream, they announced that, we just can't do the PvE mode. Because apparently they've not really released anything for the game at all under the guise that they were working on the PvE game. And now they're not going to. And it's okay.
Yeah, apparently the game has just kind of lain fallow for 3 years, it sounds like.
So, yeah. And the detail that was hilarious was quite possibly one of the worst cases of press training. That during an interview, they're like, oh yeah, we knew as soon as we were launching that we couldn't do the PvE game.
Yeah.
But the PvE game was a significant feature of, hey, we're going to launch this so that we can have PvE, the thing you all want.
Yep, that's the real reason for
Yeah.
it. It's sure not so that we can get in on some of that sweet, sweet Fortnite money.
Yeah, no, it's real bad. Because the entire reason for the second game existing in the narrative was that they were gonna give us those PvE modes that they always wanted. And since the Checkpoint video came out, they've released another statement oh no, we're totally gonna have PvE. There's gonna be some co-op matches. It'll be fine. And some videos. But no story mode, no progression elements, none of that. It's real sad.
No, what actually sounded interesting.
Considering Overwatch the first time sprang out of a basically canceled PvE project, I'm not surprised that they had a hard time going back to it.
I'm not surprised. I'm just disappointed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, basically that.
Yep.
like, if you look at Blizzard over the last, basically since 2018, it's been a parade of disappointments.
Well, but I mean, Activision as a whole has basically, like, that was the other thing that was coming out, is there was also just terrible press happening. So maybe they were just saying anything to get people's attention off of the fact that the entire executive class was sexually harassing their employee base.
I mean, I don't know if I want to even give them that amount of credit. Like, I think the entire existence of Overwatch 2 is just because there were not enough hooks for monetization in Overwatch 1, and they wanted some more money. Like, that's entirely why I think that happened.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Ash is right. I'm pretty sure this announcement was before all of that came out.
Yeah, it was like, WoW was not in the best state.
But I still cared about Blizzard as a company when that announcement came out.
Yeah, we had not yet learned about all the awful.
So yeah, like, but like, if you look back at it, like, there was I posted a thing today on my blog, and I was digging through some articles, and like, there was a PC Gamer post from like July of 2021, and even at that post, it was just a play-by-play of all the horrible decisions that had been made. And there's even been more since then. Like, that wasn't factoring in, like, you know, Diablo Immortal and, you know, the true revelation of everything that's come out of stuff that's happened at Blizzard. So I don't know. Like, I mean, I think I'm just totally giving up hope at this point. Like, whatever little hope I had is now, I think, gone.
I do appreciate how Checkpoint has slowly but surely, possibly against their will, morphed from just telling jokes about the games industry to actually doing journalism, or perhaps maybe better, like, reverse engineering journalism and sort of explaining it to, like, everyone, like, how the sources are working and everything. It's very funny.
Checkpoint has basically become The Daily Show, but for games.
The conversation around Take-Two's Interactive this week, where they're like, hey, we're pretty sure that there's going to be a GTA 6 next year. Why are we pretty sure? Because Take-Two Interactive is basically telling everyone there's going to be a game, and the only game that could possibly be big enough to justify these numbers would be GTA 6.
Yeah, like that they were looking at like $8 billion in bookings next year.
Yeah, $8 billion with a B dollars in bookings. And like, as they would point out, and we can trust this news because Take-Two told it to their actual customers, the shareholders.
Yep.
And lying to your shareholders is a big no-no.
It can land you in jail.
Yeah.
Because that's what really matters in life.
Yeah.
But one of the things that is going to be, I think, interesting, and I was thinking about this as we were talking about, like, there is probably a lot of reverse engineering old games industry coverage. Like, I watched, I'm sure a lot of people have seen this, a little over in-depth analysis of the Roblox oof sound made by one Harris Bomber guy.
Yes.
And what really sticks out to me is watching some of the old 90s like television spots of Tommy Tallarico like reviewing games and just like how that worked, and like just how chummy everything was between those two industries, and like how much unintended truth was coming through there. There's probably a lot of that reverse engineering that could be done on old footage. Mm-hmm. I imagine that'll probably be an area for people to look at in the future. Try and piece together the postmortems for the project.
Well, and I'll be honest, like, it had gotten to the point with the Overwatch thing that, like, maybe I just misremembered what was on the 2019 BlizzCon reveal.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that was from the before times.
Right, like, I went back and watched the whole thing this morning, and no, I didn't misremember any of what was being pitched.
That said, like, the pitch and the reality are always different.
Oh yeah, no, you can go back to most of the games that have come out, and they're very little like what they were originally envisioned as. How many systems in World of Warcraft have been pitched and never put in?
Yeah, but there's also a fundamental difference between, well, we're pitching this or that system, and we're pitching a PvE game versus a PvP game.
Oh no, I absolutely
This
agree.
game at all.
Or the idea that, like, hey, you should buy this game now, and it's going to turn into a game that you want in the future.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Maybe that's the biggest takeaway that everyone should take from all of these things that keep happening is don't buy a game on the promise that it may be a thing that you want at some point.
Yep.
Yeah. And like, I mean, game development is a lot of leaving stuff on the cutting room floor. Like, I strongly, I mean, controversially, maybe, I kind of feel like it's bad to be too transparent in your game development process because nobody likes to hear that the thing that they got excited about had to get cut. Like, it sucks.
I feel like the alternative is don't talk about it until it's almost ready.
Basically, yeah. Like,
yeah. But I mean, going back, like that was always the problem with Peter Molyneux. Is he promised everything and could never deliver everything he promised. And
yeah, the wildest ideas that never panned out.
And like Molyneux, Molyneux's crime was never like, lying to people. It was saying the part that you're not supposed to say publicly.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of the stuff that I've worked on that like we had to cut, I don't talk about because people would be like, oh, that'd be amazing. Why didn't you do it? It was like, well, because it didn't work. It wasn't fun. There's a million very sensible reasons why this thing that sounded really good on paper just doesn't pan out.
Like, and maybe years later, once, the game is far enough in the past, like it can be talked about it from like an academic point of view, or like a, kind of like how Ralph Koster talks about like the original ideas for how the Ultima Online economy, should have worked and why that ended up not working at all.
I mean, you can say whatever you want about, Fallout 4 as a video game, whether or not it met your expectations. But to me, that is the thing that I have in my mind as the perfect release cadence. We did not know it existed until 6 months before we had it in our hands. Like, that's about the ideal amount of time.
The new sort of shadow drop trend where it's just like, hey, FYI, we've been working on this thing and you can play it right now.
Yeah.
Like, I would love, this is one of those, like, I wish that I could see some data on that because I bet it's really interesting.
Honestly, I feel like that requires a certain size of studio because the announcement of that thing has to be big enough.
Yeah.
It has to be a thing people were already watching for something else.
I mean, it tends to work pretty well on me. The whole, like, here's this game. Doesn't it sound cool? It's available tomorrow.
But Nintendo can do that because Nintendo Directs are a thing.
Yeah.
And Microsoft can do that now because they basically have their equivalent.
I was going to say, Nintendo gets to do that because you were already watching to see, and one more thing, let's show you some information from Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah. It's harder when you're, one of like 500 or however many developers on Steam, and you drop your game amongst all of the, shovelware garbage, and
that's definitely true.
Hope that
but
it
also
shows up.
Hi-Fi Rush.
Let's see more about Starfield.
Yeah, Hi-Fi Rush was because that just came out of nowhere, and
Hi-Fi Rush came out of nowhere from a studio that, like, if you were a particular enthusiast of a particular genre, you might have heard of them.
Well, wait a second.
Right, but it came out during a Microsoft event.
Yeah.
In which people were already tuning in to see things about, say, Starfield.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you need a venue. Like, absolutely.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean,
like,
Microsoft
that only
has done
works
it a
if
lot.
you are big enough to have the venue.
And you have some other new, like, you almost need the game that everyone is wanting, that they're going to watch your entire direct for to see more information about, so they can be surprised by your shadow drops.
Yep.
You need a Team Fortress 2, and you need to hope that you're Portal.
I'm like, it almost, I'm facetious before anybody gets mad, but It sure sounds like that's a strong benefit of tying your boat to PlayStation or Microsoft or Nintendo.
I mean, it is kind of true.
I wonder. The hilarious thing is that Blizzard totally could have gotten away with this. I mean, I don't think they can anymore, but like BlizzCon's a thing. They absolutely could have shadow dropped something.
Yep.
They used to be able to, that's for sure. They have They have sufficiently been spending down all of their good day.
But wait, BlizzCon's coming back this year.
For what?
That's not.
Why do I care?
It will be so interesting to see how that plays out. Because, like, I will admit, there's a handful of people that I know that are super excited about the return of BlizzCon, but like that group is dwindling so fast.
Why?
Just to examine that critically for a second, it's going to be a WoW expansion.
What is
and what else?
I don't know, but at least they'll be able to get tickets this year.
Oh yeah.
What was the Ball Pit Con?
DashCon.
DashCon, Fire Festival.
Oh wait, the dude from Fire Festival got funding for another Fire Festival.
Wait, what?
No, legitimately, that's a thing.
He did. Well,
that's a thing that he has announced.
Yeah.
We'll say that much.
I mean, I've seen, theories that it's, basically him trying to get some capital and run. But yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what it was the first time. You don't actually have to fly people out the island if you don't. You could save yourself a lot of trouble.
I don't know. It just made me realize, like, what a wildly different time we're in right now, as opposed to the heady days of 2019. 2019 as a year simultaneously feels like last year and like a decade ago.
A lifetime ago. Good grief.
Right. Mm-hmm. I would love to hear, at this point, I would love to hear literally any Blizzard news that didn't make me sad.
Yes.
Yep.
Because I don't want to hate Blizzard. I would like Blizzard to somehow like rise from the ashes and be that thing that it used to be. And I mean, it's not going to happen.
Well, like
or even just even just a decent studio putting out good games.
Yeah,
but,
like that. Like, do I believe for a second we can go back to the old days of Blizzard? Like, not a snowball's chance in hell. But like a studio that does fine and puts out some good stuff is not impossible.
I would be perfectly fine if Blizzard would at least get to the level of Spiders, where they make fairly flawed but well-intentioned games.
I mean, I would be okay if they just made predictable, fine games.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they're positioned for it. Like, hey, Call of Duty does the thing. People like those games well enough if you're into Call of Duty. Like,
Call of Duty makes enough money that the rest of the company could make rather experimental things and they'd be fine.
But I don't know if they can get back to there because they have decimated chunks of that company, especially the Q&A department. And I mean, I feel like what we just saw with the Diablo 4 test was a lack of a Q&A department because it launched with unplayable Necro, and like it was so unplayable that they tried to hotfix it in the middle of a 2-day cycle.
Wait, yikes. I thought Necro was overpowered.
That was the previous test.
That was the previous one.
What happened?
The same thing Blizzard always does. Something was too fun, and they nerfed it into the ground.
To the ground.
and like it was unplayable in its weekend state, and like they didn't get the patch out the door until I think the last 4 hours of the test on Sunday.
See, and Grace's comment is really like the thing Blizzard always does: take a thing that's too fun and nerf it. Like, not only are you not wrong, but man, that's the legacy right now.
Yep. Like, I mean, and that was always the problem with World of Warcraft is like there were some good ideas, but they were buried in the middle of a shit sandwich.
I'm mad about being right about the lessons Shadowlands took from Classic.
Oh man.
Clearly the only problem is that the level cap is not 60.
Of course.
Wow. I guess I see how you could take that, but wow, that's no.
Pain.
I mean, I feel like an alternate lesson that was also part of that is we have too much content. Let's make it so people don't have to interact with it.
Wasn't we have too much content? Let's make it so people don't have to interact with it. Like the whole opposite of the lesson they should have learned from Cataclysm.
No one learned any lessons from Cataclysm.
Yeah, like I feel like that's what they've like continually done ever since Cataclysm.
Live and don't learn.
Yeah.
Well, like every expansion since Cataclysm has essentially nuked what came before and started over. And there's been a series of, systems that got implemented that were not carried forward. And it was intentional. Like it's come out that was absolutely intentional. It wasn't an accident that they did that. They thought that was fun and exciting.
Keeping things fresh.
I guess. Yeah. Speaking of snarky takes, how about Amazon and Lotro?
Gosh, like Amazon's going to make Lord of the Rings MMO, which big shock. They've got a gaming studio. They have Lord of the Rings as a thing that they have access to. Like it makes sense. But then they have to go and throw a lot of shade at Lotro while simultaneously talking about how like their game, like if what someone wants is something that's true to the books, then that's not what they're going to get because this is a game and the game has to like play with things. And
I mean, that is a true statement.
It is.
I mean, and my problem with most of this is the fact that I don't feel like Amazon has earned any right to snark at anyone.
Yes.
They have yet to succeed at a game. They have yet to succeed at a Lord of the Rings series.
Yeah. Like I don't I'm not going to stand here and like claim that Standing Stone is some like paragon of gaming brilliance that can do no wrong, but like they've kept this game going and continued to add things and kept it in pretty good shape, all told. And yeah, it's an old game at this point. It's been around the block. It's showing its age. But I don't know. Maybe come in and tell us about the cool things that you're gonna do, and not like how that game over there that's jank. You should come to ours. I don't know.
I mean, I would rather have a game with a track record of actually supporting it than a company that really hasn't supported anything to this point.
Yeah.
They sort of supported New World eventually.
Yeah, but it's still not doing great.
Sure.
Like I don't know. Like it seems maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is a massive group of people that would love to play a Lord of the Rings MMO that bounced off of Lord of the Rings Online or just never tried it, that Amazon can pull into their game. But I sure feel like the people that are currently playing Lotro, they're not the things that they have said do not seem like they would appeal to them.
I feel like the current audience of Lotro might not be the target audience of this game.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw that one out there. My next statement is I don't think I want to play Lotro because, I mean, frankly, it feels very old.
It does.
And so I would be interested in something new. I do think there's kind of a open spot for like a more classic swords and sorcery MMO. I don't know.
I mean, okay, so, unpopular opinion, but like there aren't a lot of people I think who could do a Lord of the Rings MMO, and Amazon is one of the few. Like, and
why do you think they could?
Because in order to do a Lord of the Rings MMO or any strong IP MMO, you need a lot of experience working in other people's IP so that you can walk the really tight line between functional game and the endless tide of demands that your IP holder will have for you.
Mm-hmm.
And like many of which are impossible. Like impossible either because they're literally not possible or impossible because you would jeopardize the entire game to do so.
Right.
And there's a reason why for decades video game, like IP tied video games, were bad. And it's because nobody in the games industry had the practice or leverage to basically do anything other than make this movie into a beat for beat video game, which, by the way, makes for terrible video games.
Yes, absolutely.
So, like,
going the other direction makes for terrible movies. So yeah, this makes sense.
You're right. Like, they're different media. Like, you don't translate media one for one because they're completely different experiences. So Amazon has a lot of experience working with IP, including the Lord of the Rings IP, where they've made, you don't have to like Rings of Power, but the fact that Rings of Power exists and is essentially a unique space in the Lord of the Rings universe that still meshes reasonably with, all but the most hardcore fans is a feat by itself.
Also, gameplay wise, New World is pretty good.
Yeah,
it's got significant structural problems,
right?
But it is good in spite of all of that.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. That's the other reason I think they can succeed, is because they know how to fail. And I really cannot emphasize how important it is to know how to fail, because I can tell you who doesn't know how to fail. It's Blizzard.
Yeah.
But they know, but like New World structurally is a good game. Or mechanically. Structurally it's a disaster, but structurally it's coming, like, it started as an even worse structural disaster and pulled itself back from the brink. All Amazon needs to do is say, this lore we learned from New World. The new Lord of the Rings MMO is a PvP exclusive, or is a PvE exclusive game, because that's what people liked about New World. We're going to have a largely similar experience, like from an engine and mechanics standpoint, and a sweet Lord of the Rings vibe to it. Like, yeah, I mean, I'd play that game. But I also don't think that you can have the conversation about we're making a Lord of the Rings MMO without having to start from, and this is why it's going to be better than the existing offering.
I do think the way you say we're going to be better than the existing offering is probably more along the lines of the user experience of the existing offering was outdated 10 years ago.
Yeah, but I mean, no matter how you phrase it, it's going to feel bad for anybody who liked the original. I mean, I don't necessarily think that attacking the, I don't think that necessarily putting out attack ads for the old Lotro is, necessarily the play, but also I didn't really see that from them. Like, maybe there's an ad that I missed.
I mean, it's not an ad. It's just some statements that the producer, I forget his exact title, made, but it was some jabs at Lotro, basically. And like, I'm fine with you saying our game is going to be better, but I'd like to hear why your game is going to be better, not why that game is bad.
Yeah. And I mean, anyone who has ever played Lotro understands the age of that game and what you're getting with it. And so obviously any new game with that IP is going to be superior in a lot of ways, regardless of how you feel about how they treat the lore or other things. Just mechanically, probably going to be a better experience. I don't know that it's necessary to take any of those jabs because people already know.
And I guess I'm missing where the jabs were, because all I saw was Hartman saying he has a lot of respect for Standing Stone Games and Turbine for keeping Lotro's lights all these years, that it's not a bad game, but the industry moves on at some point, and it's a long time from their release to ours. But like, I guess I didn't see the jab. Like, looking at the technology, where we're at now and where it will be in a couple of years, it's just worlds apart. It's a little exaggeration if I say it's going to be like black and white movies to color, but that's the approach I want to take. It's just a completely different world. Like, that doesn't feel like jabs to me. Like, I don't know. That feels like a baseline statement of fact.
Yeah, that's not the statement that I had read, and I'm I'm looking for the statement, but I'm not finding it either.
Yeah, I mean, I pulled that off
It's been a few days
GameSpot.
and it's fallen down. It's fallen way down in my feeds.
I'm glad it's not Tencent.
Yeah.
Who were they working with this before? Was that Tencent?
I don't actually know, but it's not the same game.
It was Leiyu, and they got canceled because they got purchased by Tencent. This was late last year.
I think it's going to end up being just an unbelievably different experience.
I mean, I think that's a given. Because where we are in building games today is a wildly different place than where we were when Turbine launched, Lord of the Rings Online.
Yeah, also true.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's like sensibilities of the players, funding models of games. It's all just different. It's a different era.
Yeah, completely different everything, basically.
That game is old enough to drive.
It's disturbing. Makes me feel exceptionally old.
Yeah.
I'm tentatively excited about it.
Yeah.
I think that there are a number of things that could make for really cool games and haven't been yet, and or have been long enough ago that there's room for a new interesting version of it. And Lord of the Rings is really hard. That's a really hard property to work with.
I mean, presumably a little bit easier now that they don't have to worry about keeping Christopher Tolkien happy.
It's fair. But I mean, the last really clever, innovative Lord of the Rings game I've seen was Shadow of Mordor.
Yeah, which did play kind of fast and loose with the setting in some ways.
But you kind of have to.
Yeah, that's something that Lord of the Rings Online it's a big problem early on, and they managed to adjust and improve things as it went on. But for a good part of the early game, you felt like you were a side character in somebody else's story, which you were.
I mean, you mechanically have to be, though.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, you don't have to be.
No, there's because the idea was you're dealing with other things around, while the Fellowship is doing their thing, but that's just one group of people on one particular quest, and there's plenty of other stuff going on in the world, and you did see a lot of that.
Well,
But every time you crossed paths with a member of the Fellowship, it tended to be you trailing along behind them while they were, being the big cool guy.
Yeah, that was why I liked that. What was it? War in the North, I think was the name of the game. It was kind of a Dragon Age-like.
That was the RPG that took extremely closely after FF10.
Yes.
Yeah. But it was just
anybody remember what was that, early aughts, when the prevailing opinion was that it was way cooler to be the sidekick? Everybody seemed to think that was a narrative truism.
Apparently.
That was I'm getting the games wrong. That was the Third Age.
Yeah, War in the North was it was very Dragon Age-y.
Yeah,
if you look at screenshots of Lord of the Rings: The Third Age, and you are familiar with what FF10 looks like, you might confuse them for screenshots of FF10.
FF10, not a game that I think of as being particularly Lord of the Rings like. So,
and yet,
but yeah, Tam's right. There was a little period there where it seemed like everybody had traveled back in time and was you know what the kids want to be? The kids don't want to be Batman. They want to be Robin.
I feel like we get that in cycles though, constantly, and not just restricted to American or Western media, because this is how we got freaking Van in FF12.
That's true.
I mean, isn't Van from the same era?
Although I was going to say, was that a case of them thinking that was something they needed to appeal to a Western audience?
No,
I know that was a thing.
They wanted it to. No, they just didn't think players would be able to sympathize with a protagonist who was not a young boy, basically.
Oh yeah, that's right. Which is that's more of a what. I'm trying to think what game it was where they actually had two different versions of the character.
That was Nier.
Nier, yeah, it was Nier, wasn't it? Yeah, the Westerners got a gruff dad, and the Easterners got a Bishonen boy.
I think that was around the same time.
In 10, 15 years, we're all going to be sitting around going, "Man, remember when every game was you as somebody's dad?"
Yeah.
That's absolutely a thing.
And then played by Pedro Pascal in the TV adaptation.
Okay, I want to know about this extremely free-to-play racing title.
This one's mine. Because every once in a while, I get it into my head that I used to like racing games. I want to try to play one. And I was
sorry.
Yeah, well, I was browsing around and looking up some reviews and wanted something for the Switch because it's just convenient and I like playing racing games with a controller, which I don't feel like doing on the PC. And came across Asphalt 9 Legends, which I downloaded because it is free. It's a mobile game. It's also available on all the things. I think you can play it on PC as well. And it is definitely free and has all of the trappings of a mobile game and all the monetization that goes with it. And before I talk about that, I have to say the game is fun. It is. I mean, it's a racing game and it's fairly arcadey, and there's jumps and you're slamming into other cars and doing barrel rolls off of ramps and just crazy things. It's very fun, but the cars are realistic, so it's a nice balance. It's not a sort of cartoony arcadey racer. It has realistic cars and garage with upgrade kind of things, but it's not too down in the weeds on the details. It's a good balance for me because I don't actually care about the cars, but I do care about the balance of their stats and how the way they feel to drive. And yeah, I downloaded it and played it for several hours and lost track of time. That's always a good thing. I think it's really fun, and I've been playing it on and off for the better part of a week at this point. And it's great. I really enjoy it, but it is extremely free to play, and I think what's maybe worse in some ways is that it's a quite mature game. I'm not sure what year it came out. It's been out for I think at least 3-4 years, maybe even more. And there's just a lot of things on the cash shop.
Yeah, long enough for them to have added additional systems and things. Yeah.
And it's just it's so overwhelming. The systems are so overwhelming that even though I'm really enjoying it, and I've hit the point where I usually am like, okay, I want to kick a couple bucks to this company because I'm enjoying myself, and instead I look at the cash shop and I'm just like, I don't even know.
I want none of this.
Right,
what would I even spend money on?
I don't want any part of this. And yeah, I could get the season pass, and that's probably the best value because I've unlocked enough of it that getting the paid half is probably worth it. But there's just so many things, so many different packs, and it's also got the issue of gotcha games. You can't just buy a car that you want. You have to buy random packs, and each pack has cards, and each card is somewhere on the order of between 1/20th and 1/60th of a car.
Oh, jeez.
It's just frustrating because there's been a lot of games that I've played over the years that have effectively been ruined by the fact that they're a free-to-play game. I will say, Diablo Immortal is actually a pretty good game, but it's ruined by its monetization. Dragalia Lost wasn't as bad as some of them, but if that was a buy the box game, it would have been infinitely better.
Yeah, and this one, I mean, it's definitely like when you talk about paying for power, like you can see all the places where yes, you lay down your cash money and you get a car that's better than somebody else's car that they can't get without buying the fancy pack, and like that's always a turnoff, I guess. But I've still been enjoying it enough, and I've gotten into it enough to find all of the places where I can just play it comfortably for free and still get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So I know that I'm never going to win like a multiplayer versus league, but I can hold my own for a little while with the crappy cars that I have for free. And engage with some of the special content that they have that doesn't require having fancy cars that you pay cash money for. And so all the parts that aren't tied to the monetization are super fun. Definitely recommend. I mean, it's free and on lots of things, so it doesn't hurt to try it out if you are interested in an arcadey racer. And yeah, just maybe ignore the cash shop. I guess my biggest pet peeve is that there's a sort of season, season mode, right? You go through and do a series of races, and those like you get to a point, it's like, oh well, you need this specific car to continue
What?
in
Wow.
Oh, jeez.
like
And the cars are red. That wow.
yeah, and like I can see that it's one where like I will be able to buy it with in-game points eventually,
Correct.
but through like randomly waiting for it to come up for in-game points in the shop instead of cash money points and buying the cards for it when it's there. But yeah, in the meantime, you're just sort of waiting to progress. It doesn't feel great. So, but there's lots of other things to do. So I'm still playing it. I'm going to play it until I get bored of it. But I just wanted to talk about that. And I felt like it was a good segue into maybe the next thing that Bel wants to talk about.
I mean, I kind of want to throw like one of the things talking about these free to play games, and like this is you mentioned Dragalia Lost. This was kind of my issue with Genshin. I haven't really played Honkai Star Rail, but like a big feature of these games is they are gacha games where you are gaining access to new characters through the gacha mechanics, right?
Yeah.
My issue is it seems like those characters are always like they are a collection of avatars and stats, but not like story, and it feels like it sort of cuts the appeal of these types of games out from under them, where I want to have like a big ensemble cast.
I mean, some games do better at it than than others. Like the one that I was
Dragalia Lost
complaining
did a
about
pretty good job.
a few weeks. Yeah, the one that I complained about a few weeks back that Crunchyroll shut down. That I did the thing and started playing the Japanese version. It was actually much less insane than things that Bell has done. So, like they have a launcher on the PC. I don't even need a VPN. It's great.
Nice.
But like all of the characters have like have individual stories like attached to each of them that you unlock as you use that character. That and then also stories for each of the guilds that all the characters are parts of, because every character is a member of a guild, and event stories and things. So there's lots of opportunity to get attached to all of these characters. Like that's part of why I kept playing the game, because I like them.
And I think Genshin did better with that as they went along.
Yeah,
But
it just took them a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were really slow rolling out story content, but like the thing with the story content is you could run it even if you didn't have the character. you were just finding out the story of a character. Usually, I mean, later on, it was somebody that they had just put in a lot of times. But, I mean, the problem I had with Genshin Impact is, like, it was so egregious to level a new set of characters that once I had a party set up, I wasn't going to ever change it. So you could throw all the characters you wanted at me, and it didn't really matter that much.
I mean, I feel like this is a problem with me and JRPGs in general until people realize that you can just have the entire party level up at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I've
That's
noticed a thing that I've seen more and more often in free-to-play games has been the ability to move all of your investment from a character over to a different character. Sometimes for free, sometimes at a small premium cost, but
Price to own.
yeah. But so they at least realize that is something that there's that there is a desire for.
I mean, they have to make you want the new character.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many weird systems like that. Like in Diablo Immortal, for example, you only get the cosmetics on one character, but like you can change that character's class at will and effectively keep the cosmetics. So like that's a weird workaround.
So just only ever have one character?
Yeah, and you just switch it to whatever class you want it to be.
I was gonna just make a comment that when I played Final Fantasy VII my first time, my party was Cloud, Barret, and Aerith. And then my party was Cloud, Barret, and I'm sad about life.
Yeah. So this week has been hype week for Last Epoch, because I think next week is when the 9.1 patch or 0.9.1 patch drops. And there's a bunch of features that they have, previewed that are going in. Like they're adding ladders, which isn't exactly a season, but like some people will care about where they're ranked against other players.
Sure.
They're adding a new rarity to the game so currently there exists a rarity called legendaries, where you take a unique and merge it with an exalted. I think it's exalted, a purple, and you turn it into a legendary. But now you will get an item that drops that's already pseudo merged, and it levels over time, but you get random stats instead of choosing your stats. But,
I mean, to be fair, you're still sort of getting random stats with the legendary system as it stands now. It's just that you can sort of weight the odds towards things you
right,
hopefully want.
You're going to get 1 of 5 stats applied, 1 of 5 stats applied to an item based on however many legendary potential you get. So like you could have 2 random stats or 1 random stat, or anyway, it's kind of still a random mess, and there's lots of people that are trying to make the perfect item. But the thing that they previewed was their cosmetic shop. And it initially was not very well taken by the community.
It was not.
I mean, they took all of the normal F2P things and put them in their shop.
Right. They learned all the lessons that everyone else has learned. So they had numbers of currency that didn't match up to items you could buy, so that there was always a dangling remainder. It was all the standard stuff. And also, the items seemed really expensive, like a portal.
Okay, hold on. To be clear, expensive compared to other games, or expensive compared to Path of Exile, which has some of the most expensive items I've seen in any game ever?
Like, I don't think the portal appearances in Path of Exile were $20 a piece.
They tend not to be $20. Pets are up that or higher.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, it was like, I mean, a item, the highest expensive item that they had was like $20 for just an item. And, folks took, umbrage with that one.
Well, and I think people felt rightly a little bit differently because Last Epoch
is not free.
Right. Last Epoch is not free. So, you're sort of hoping that the cash shop is a little less pricey than the game that is free.
Yeah.
Having just checked, Portals and Path of Exile range from like $10 to $30, depending on the portal.
Yeah, I guess I don't ever buy anything at full price in Path of Exile.
Also that.
Because eventually
Yeah.
it goes on sale. But yeah, so like that announcement lasted 24 hours, roughly. And they have completely reworked everything. So every item on the shop will be an increment of 50 points. And 50 points is the smallest package available. So there will be no quote unquote bonus system for the larger package that you buy. And basically everything dropped in half for the prices of just across the board. So that's kind of cool. Like I absolutely was going to throw more money at them. But like that's nice that it's a lesser amount of money. Or that I'm going to get more stuff for the amount of money.
Yeah, or you could still throw a pretty big amount of money if you want to get a supporter pack.
I don't understand how those supporter packs work. Like, do the bigger packs basically give you everything up to that point?
They didn't say. My suspicion would be no. I think they're just like, hey, if you want to support us, you get these cool things, and you can decide which pack of cool things you would like at whatever price point.
The only reason why I wonder that is because like the way that their current supporter packs
used to work.
Yeah, like their supporter packs currently, you get everything going up to the point.
I didn't think they currently had any current.
Oh yeah, on their
packs?
website. Yeah, on their website they still have supporter packs.
Huh.
They've had several rounds of them.
Right, but I didn't think any had been available since the multiplayer launch.
I don't know about that. I've not looked since the multiplayer launch. But they used to be that way to where like if you bought,
I remember seeing them back then.
Special pack, you got, the sort of special pack and the unspecial pack as well. But yeah, like it's gonna be interesting. Like there's a bunch of changes going in, and it's more than I thought was going to go in. Like apparently they've added unique graphics to every weapon in the game, or every unique weapon in the game. Because previously, like the unique weapons just had like kind of a generic graphic.
I was having a really hard time trying to find any information on things that were coming. I guess they didn't start posting about it until the start of this week, basically.
Yep. Yeah, we haven't had the full patch notes. I think those will be on Monday, maybe.
Well, and this is really exciting because after this patch, it goes live, right? Because after 0.9, you get to 1.0, right?
No, we already had 0.9.
This is 0.9.1.
Oh.
So, still have good ways to go.
I'm always extremely amused by people who are surprised when something goes to 0.10.
Semantic versioning is confusing because it was a way of communicating information designed by programmers.
Yep.
Accurate. I think it might go into that too hard problems thing also.
Yes.
I think I have more or less landed on a character for the time being. I am playing a not quite yet squirrel build.
Squirrel build?
Yeah, so there's a helm for primalists, specifically beastmasters, called something of the scurry, and it turns all of your wolves into 2 squirrels apiece. So if you have 6 wolves, you have 12 squirrels.
Herald of the Scurry, I think.
Herald of the Scurry, yeah. So
I mean, like, I guess. So one, I do not know how difficult target farming uniques is in this game.
It's not great.
But, I mean, yeah. I haven't seen one drop either.
I have basically chanced my way into most of the uniques I was looking for by using the item that rerolls it as a unique. I have not gotten a scurry helm that way yet. But I did get the chest for the necro that way. I don't know, but right now the build is fine, even though I don't have the squirrels. The squirrels are just faster and you get more of them. But the wolves are fine. Yeah. But the weirdest thing about the build is that I don't really do any damage anymore. I have finally accepted my fate, and the only thing I am doing is leaping around and then buffing my pets. And when I land on the ground, I drop a totem that does a bunch of upheavals, which are like avalanche things. But I really wish that the Primalist could be female, because then I would be Squirrel Girl.
I definitely have settled on a druid build that just is a plant and has lots of plant friends, and yeah, it's pretty great, and everything heals me, so it feels a little safer to play than my Necro, which is really fun, and I love my swarm of horrible undead children, but I died a lot with that build. It was not tanky at all, and this one definitely, it's a little slower to kill stuff, but I don't die very often.
I've been playing Werebear a bit, which I'm enjoying. I do think I want to try Swarmblade at some point, though.
Are you doing the cold dot variant?
No. Just physical, some bleed on top of it.
Cool.
Turns out that the bear inherits automatically your swipe tree. You can have the bear pet inherit your swipe tree. You can have totems that drop that inherit your swipe tree.
Yeah, that's the setup that I'm in right now, is where I take upheaval, but I never actually use it myself. It's just every time I leap, it drops a totem that drops an upheaval totem.
Yeah, so like I do have this ability on my bar, because why not? But I don't ever press it while in human form. It's never necessary.
I had to finally remove upheaval from my bar and put like swipe on there, because I kept accidentally hitting it and screwing everything up. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what else comes out of this patch, because I don't know, like it just seems like they keep adding interesting stuff to the game. In the other ARPG I have been playing, I think I am giving up on bossing. I have killed Uber Elder, and that was a thing, and then I tried Uber Maven and became immensely frustrated at the tail end of that fight. And like, this is a general problem that I have with ARPGs and boss fights, is when you put too much friction between me trying again. It just, like, I don't know, like, time from failed state to reset needs to be quick in order for me to really enjoy it, because like I learned by doing more than learn by reading or watching videos, and when it takes forever to get back to the fight, it's just frustrating to me. And like, to do Maven, unless I am buying Maven tokens, it takes me 100 maps to be able to fight Maven.
Oof.
Wait, okay, why does it take that many maps?
So the only way that you can get so to fight Maven or Uber Maven, the one that you need to get your Void Stone, you have to farm Maven invitations. And to fight a Maven invitation, Maven has to have witnessed you on 10 different tier 14 or higher maps. And each time you do an invitation, generally speaking, 1 fragment drops, and you need 10 fragments to make a doodad to fight Maven. So you have to do 10 maps, get a fragment, another 10 maps, get a fragment, until you've done 100 maps in a row, to then be able to get 6 attempts at fighting or defeating Maven, like the Uber Maven. And like,
that's not the Uber one. You haven't put the Alice point in to get the super
version,
right?
Yeah, this is just Maven. Yeah, you're right. And like, it's just not my cup of tea. Like, it's too much.
I mean, I guess on one hand, you are playing a game whose creators are very proud of how much they're going to waste your time.
Yeah, well, I mean, and the thing is people who do bossing, generally speaking, don't farm their own stuff. They just buy it.
I say you can just sell
like
Crescent Splinters.
Right, that would be a thing I could do, but like, for whatever reason, that's a line I just can't bring myself to cross, because I don't get enough enjoyment out of fighting bosses in ARPGs to make it willing to, like, if I'm going to buy Maven tokens, I might as well just pay the 10 chaos, I think, to get a carry and get my Void Stone.
Is that all?
Like, chaos is like carries for for
Gonna
void
say,
stones are
as leagues go
stupidly
on,
cheap.
this price goes down and down.
Yeah, like carries
Because
for
also
for-
at a certain point, people just aren't doing maps not witnessed. Also, so like invitations are just a thing.
Well, yeah, but people don't usually do witnessed maps. They usually do either the Searing Exarch or Eater of Worlds influence. And
That's
you
fair.
can't do both at the same time.
That's fair. Yes, Eldritch Ultras are much more common.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, like, I will probably next league I play just suck it up and buy my last 2 void stones and go on with life, because the amount of hassle that it has taken, one, to farm up enough maps to be able to fight Uber Elder, that was its own frustration. And at least Maven's more straightforward, but also it just isn't fun.
So I mean, part of this is that you very much enjoy an activity, 2 activities, in fact, that take you out of the mapping game.
It does. It really does.
You like Delve, you like Heist. Those are not doing more maps.
Right. I only do maps when I need Sulfite, pretty much.
But like, there are a lot of endgame strategies that are just do more maps.
Right now, yeah. And if I were doing
Like,
hundreds
I really like
of
Abyss, for example.
if I were doing like hundreds of T14 and beyond maps, then yeah, no, I probably would have gotten more than enough influenced maps to be able to get the tokens I needed. But I'm just not. Like, I only do those when I'm running Sulfite or specifically trying to farm influenced maps. But like, that's okay. Like, to be honest, I never raided for the boss fights in MMOs either. I don't really like boss fights. I raided for the gear and to hang out with people. So I'm fine with not doing bosses in games.
See, I like cool and mechanically interesting boss fights, and Path of Exile definitely has some of those.
They do, but like, it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And you kind of have to build for a boss, and that's the other thing. Like, the builds that I really enjoy aren't good bossers.
Yeah, I guess my build it's not specifically a bossing build, but it's not bad at it.
Right.
It's pretty good at going to a single target and making them not exist anymore. Which, like, at the point you're getting to pinnacle bosses, you can't just like instantly delete them. But like, there's probably an amount of gear I could get where I'd be able to like instantly phase Searing Exarch, for example.
Right. Yeah. Whereas my strategy for Searing Exarch is just don't die to anything, and eventually it dies. Tank all the mechanics.
No, I'm not that tough.
Anyway, but the other thing that I tried out this week that is ARPG related is a game called Ghostlore.
I think I've heard of this.
It's pretty fun, actually.
This looks like Diablo 2.
So,
graphically, not gameplay wise.
Like what it reminds me of is, what if you had Diablo, but it is an Indonesian game and it looks like an 18 or a 16-bit era Genesis game.
Okay.
Like, it's very arcadey. It has very interesting character build system. Like, you're fighting hopping Chinese zombies, and the first boss that you fight is Raffalesa or whatever, the stinky man-eating plant.
Mm-hmm.
You said Indonesian, but the names looked a little familiar, and I had to check. The website's definitely based in Singapore.
I thought I'd read somewhere that it was like an Indonesian development company. I don't know, but it is definitely Southeastern Asian.
Yes.
Very, very interesting take on the genre. I don't know, like the character build system is really interesting in that you've got these runes to place to basically power up abilities, and
you sort of play Tetris with them.
Yeah. And you'll get like these combo runes that essentially draw an arc across the grid. So like it literally looks like a Tetris shape, but like if you place other runes in the influence of those, they like get their face value plus some additional weird buffs based on the combo rune. When you can multi-class, So like you start as one class and then you pick up two other classes as you go through the game. And like when you do that, certain abilities of certain classes can be placed on the grid side by side and they will morph into a different ability. So you'll essentially lose an ability from each class, but you'll gain a totally different ability as a result.
Yeah, so for example, I have minions, surprise, and my first class had a minion that gave me a crow, and I could have some crows flying around with me, and it was cool. And then I got my second class, and I think it was a buff spell or something, put it on my grid next to the crow, and they merged, and now I have these sunbirds that fly around and are more powerful and different from my crows. It's kind of cool.
Like I started off as a standard melee character, and then I decided I really liked I forget what they call them in the game, but basically they're these seals that rotate around you and you can throw them like Gambit. And they're really, really, really fast, but you're basically throwing playing cards at the mobs. So like I picked up in a second class the ability to make heat-seeking versions of those, and then like I could morph that and turn it into this third ability called acupuncture that just makes me be able to throw like a fan of needles that causes bleeding.
Yeah, it sounds like, some like an exorcist type then.
There is an exorcist class. Yeah, that is absolutely who uses the seals.
Yeah,
by default, and they're also a minion class. But yeah, like it's really interesting, but also it feels very familiar for an ARPG game. Like it's absolutely a core ARPG game, but like it's a little bit more arcadey. Super cheap. It's an indie game. I think it was like $20, something like that.
I think it's on sale right now because it just officially launched.
Yep. And like I feel like it would be. I've not tried it on Steam Deck, but I feel like it would play extremely well on Steam Deck because it doesn't really require much in the way of resources, and it is just enough fidelity that like it doesn't bother me in the way that Chronicon bothered me.
Yeah, whatever it is about the graphical style, it seems fine. It's very retro, but like in a good way.
Yeah, like it's kind of almost a Stardew Valley art style. And anytime you talk to people, you get the much higher fidelity portrait of the person that you're talking to.
I did notice this game had local co-op and was wondering if it was out on consoles, but the answer is Xbox. It's out on Xbox.
I've not tried co-op of any kind.
It only has split screen.
Okay.
It does not have online.
You can save your game at any point, which is a little weird to get used to.
It is a little unusual for the genre, but not necessarily a bad thing. Not at all a bad thing, quite frankly.
Yeah, agreed.
Tam, do you want to talk just a little bit about Star Citizen 3.19?
Yeah, it's relatively quick. So I think I mentioned when I talked about Star Citizen last time that they've they've been sitting on they basically have been working on a massive structural patch, which is what they're calling persistent entity system, which is basically when you have objects in the world, regardless of what they are, the game remembers where you left them, which is madness.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Considering how big that game is, that seems ridiculous.
But works. Includes things like when your ship reaches 0 HP, it doesn't explode anymore. It is disabled. Which means that when they get to the point where you can repair it and fly off again, assuming you survive whatever happens in the interim. But it's like you can sort of see all of these pieces coming online. And that was 3.18. 3.18 was unstable, to say the least. And 3.19, they spent several incremental patches through 3.18 stabilizing the game, got it to an actually reasonably good point, and have been saying, because it launched in March, have been saying, oh, we want to have 3.19 by Invictus launch week in May, which is one of their two big, like, in-game event / sales event, things of the year. And nobody believed them. Like, I sure didn't. And yet here we are. 3.19 launched earlier this week, ahead of Invictus, with a bunch of features that I don't think anybody expected. A hefty mining revamp is one of them. The ability to physically remove components from ships and attach them to ships is one of them. Which is, those are like relatively interesting pieces, but they're like, you can kind of see the shape of things to come, which is really neat. There's a whole bunch more like above ground missions. Salvage is in the game. Racing is in the game. But the other thing that they added to the game is a new player experience, which is long overdue.
Yes.
But it is actually pretty good. It is hard to take a complicated game and put you in it in a way that lets you kind of get your feet under you. And the new player experience is basically, it's really straightforward, but the game starts you off in a bed, basically a hotel room. And previously just kind of left you like, all right,
yep, enjoy.
Down to a common thing you used to see in chat is, how do I get out of bed? But the tutorial, now that the tutorial is in, I actually think that's a good place to start. Because it's like, okay, if you are sitting or lying down somewhere, here's the button, you like press this button to stand up. And it's like, okay, cool, I can stand up out of things. This is really important because you got to do it all the time. And then it's like, here's how you move around, here's how you look around. By the way, your health or your food and drink have meters. Here's some food and drink in your hotel room so that you can understand how that works. Please eat them. Okay, here's how you leave and go to the elevator. It shows you where the elevator is. It has you wander around town a little bit to show you where shops are. Here's how you buy things. Here's how you get to the spaceport. Here's how you call your ship. Here's how you get to your ship. Here's how you turn it on. Here's how you get clearance to take off, which is now just a button press. Here's some real basics on how you fly. Just basically fly through a bunch of checkpoints. Here's how you make a quantum jump. Here's how you land. Here's how you store your ship. And, leaves you in an orbital station. And it's probably, I don't know, it was like 15, 20 minutes for me just because I already knew what everything was doing. I was just seeing what it told me. It shows you a bunch of things about, how to find missions, how to use your menus. It's a markedly better starting experience than anything the game has had previously. But the part that I find interesting about it is that, other than it being actually good, because that's rare, is it is missing a few things, I should point out. It does not teach you about helmets.
That seems important.
It is important, but it's less important than it used to be because they got rid of exterior pads on almost every space station.
Oh, that's nice.
So, yeah.
So you're not going to just step out of your ship and asphyxiate.
Yeah, not only are you not going to step out of your ship and asphyxiate, it also ended all pad ramming forever. It's just not doable anymore. You cannot, because everybody's got a garage with a garage door that doesn't. That's the reason that you call for launch, because then that's when they open the doors, because you say, hey, I'm ready for you to open the doors.
Aha.
So there's a bunch of stuff like that. But it also means that, like, yeah, you technically don't need to walk around in a spacesuit all the time. It gives you a decent chunk of money. It doesn't teach you how to fight.
Like,
but
with
I guess
guns?
Like with anything. Like, it teaches you where to go to get stuff that you need, but it's very lightweight. And I think there's enough complexity in the, like, selecting a target, using the using the leader lag pip to draw a bead on it, etc., that I think is worth tutorializing, but generally it's pretty solid. But the part that I find really interesting about it is it's clearly being built with a new building block system, because they've updated it with a few extra steps that didn't exist. Like, I played through it twice now, and they've updated in the last week with like, oh yeah, that's a good step that we didn't include. We have it in within a week.
That's cool.
And that's, having built tutorials before, that's awesome. I want that. That's really cool. It's also paired with a kind of live tutorial part of your HUD, which is also nice, that like contextually pops up things that are probably relevant to you, which is also very helpful. But it's really interesting seeing it take form into something that's like recognizable as a game that you might want to play, as opposed to like a really, really cool tech demo with some game elements. It's actually like, there's a bunch of paths you can take. You can go play all of these different things. They added a bunch of salvage missions. They've added I think they've doubled the number of missions in the game in the last 6 months. They've also, because Invictus launch week comes with a new ship release, they've released the Fury, which is the smallest ship, I think, in the entire game that is actually a spaceship. People have been wanting... Basically, there's a whole thing that's like, what can I fit in other ships? Can I fit ships into other ships?
Uh-huh.
And this is the ship that says yes. It's...
On a scale of 1 to TIE Fighter, where is it?
It's a Babylon 5-star Fury.
My comment to Bel earlier was that TIE Fighter pilots look at it and say, man, I feel really safe in my ship.
It's a cockpit with some engines stuck on.
Legitimately, when I said that I think your lifeboat in Eve is larger, I'm not being facetious. There
are turrets on other ships larger than this thing.
That's tiny.
It's small. It's got great visibility. It's really, really, really fast and agile. But it's the most bare bones ship I've ever seen. But it has spurred a whole new will it fit back and forth between people, and it is very funny. It fits in the back of the pickup truck ship comfortably.
So does this mean that they're going to allow for the retrofitting of ships that shouldn't have a fighter bay to have a fighter bay?
I mean, does it have a car? Oh, that's the other thing. Does it have a cargo grid? Yeah, it's fine. Just set it on the cargo grid. It's fine.
How are you going to land it back in there, though?
That's a problem for somebody else.
That's an hour from now's problem.
It is really fun to fly. It's pretty limited, but it's very funny. I enjoy their creativity. The other thing is that a lot of the PvP player base is really, really salty about it. Because it is a tiny ship, and as a tiny ship, it doesn't have effectively a warp drive, which means that you need a bigger ship to carry it around.
Yeah.
It is also the smallest, most agile, and one of the best armed fighters in the entire game, easily outclassing all of the current meta fighters. So there's a bunch of PvPers that are mad at this tiny little ship that you can't fly unless you have a bunch of friends to cart you around, is the premier dogfighting ship.
I mean, couldn't you theoretically cart it yourself and then just fly out?
Oh yeah, I mean, you could.
Yeah, but they could also blow your ship up while you're flying around.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that's happening with a bunch of... It's only been a week, so I'm sure people will come up with things, but they're like, man, this ship is bullshit. My targets just ignore me and blow up my carrier and then leave.
So they play intelligently.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Darn.
Or if they roll up in one of the meta fighters, a cargo ship dedicates some minuscule amount of its bay to one of these things, and it just rolls out and is like, hey, what's up?
I mean, that's what sounds like it would be really funny, is you flying around just, doing your thing, and some of these PvPers, drop in thinking that they've got a soft target, and then, one or two Furies pop out the back.
I mean, that's the funniest thing. So there's a ship that there's a ship that's kind of considered the meta cargo hauler, which is enormous. It's just it's a bonkers huge ship. It turns out that you can fit 9 Furies into it while still keeping like 10 million in profit cargo.
I mean, that sounds like a perfect pirate CNC ship.
Yeah, so there's a video of somebody who's going around making comments in general chat about where to sell things, just making it generally known that they're flying a big ship with a ton of cargo in it.
I am a merchant doing merchant things.
Yeah, exactly.
Look
and
at
then
me being a merchant.
Taking video of, you know, a ship that interdicts them with like a fighter, which is usually enough. Previously was enough for that to be just a nightmare scenario, even for a big cargo hauler. And then they just pop up in the back and like a fleet of these things rolls out. But yes, it's leading to a bunch of PvP tiers about you never know what they're carrying anymore. This is so dumb.
Maybe they'll figure out that they should remove PvP.
Yeah, right?
What's that? You might actually take some risks. Shame.
Oh yeah. What a pity. It's very funny. I love that it fits everywhere.
Once again, it just proves that most quote-unquote PvPers just want to gank.
Yep. It's also a good time for videos because people like to fuck around and find out with the giant battleship that flies around for Invictus launch week. The premise is like the like primary human faction flies around their ship as a recruiting push for the military. And part of it is them showing you can take a tour of their like ridiculously enormous battle cruiser, which then flies from system to system. And sometimes people will be like, we're going to try to take it down because this is an MMO, and people do that thing. Pro tip, you won't. And,
I mean, hey, you might.
Trying to kill Lord British is a time-honored tradition.
It's true.
You might be the guy that pulls it off.
You get some great videos from it, though. I mean, because one thing that Star Citizen can do really well is scale, and that thing is like the size of a Star Destroyer. But you get some great videos of people losing to it. But anyway, I like to see the the updates where they're clearly starting to pay attention to the idea that this is a game that people might want to play, and like, hey, maybe we should make it easier for people to actually get into it and try it. It's like they're learning.
Maybe some sort of onboarding process is a good idea.
Well, we have gone over by a bit. Any final thoughts?
Categorization is hard.
The next FF14 patch drops next week.
Yep. Well, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.